Welcome to the Turf and Touchdowns podcast, episode number 48. Emphasis on the 8 because I got it completely wrong just a few moments ago, but we are back. We're previewing the Sunday NFL action. Luke Elder alongside Tom Collins, same people, different environments though. It feels a bit odd, but we're making it work, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can tell, I am currently in a bedroom of a hotel room in Saudi with possibly the worst lighting you'll ever see. But hopefully you guys can see me well enough. I had to wear the white t-shirt just in case. You are, during the day, what time is it? 2 p.m. where you are?
No. 10 past 5.
Okay, 5 p.m. All right, fine. But it's still, a perfectly fine workable hour. It's currently 12:11 a.m. here. So, let's crack on with this.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I am currently in the happiest place in the world. Some people say I've got Minnie Mouse up here, Mickey, and Donald Duck. But can I just say, behind me, DK Metcalf on the TV, Seahawks hat here, and then I just put a Coraline bag there. It's got no real. I just feel like Coraline would like NFL, so I thought I'd put it in there. But
I have no merch, mate. I have no merch to put in the background here.
But the only reason I bought the Metcalf jerseys because the last time I went to Disney, obviously with my family, not just alone.
No, hold on, whoa, pause. This is something you would do by yourself.
Oh, 100%. Mate, I would take you.
I would bring me? All right, fair enough. Go on then.
I would bring you here, Turf and Touchdowns on tour. It is a wonderful place. It is so expensive, but it's a wonderful place.
Yeah, I would be very much up for that. TNT on tour next year. Let's do it.
we need to save up. We need to get funding. More on that in a little bit. But let's go into what on earth. I'm going to go first because I'm a bit angry. And I'm going to go what on earth, not on a person, some argue, but what on earth betting gods. Last week we did a good job. We did what we were meant to do, and we got punished. I don't know why. I don't know what we did to them. I don't know why they targeted us. But we had bad beat after bad beat after bad beat. Poor Tom Collins. He had the Rams -6.5 to beat the Raiders. Was going fine. Some guy who pretends to kick for the Rams missed 4 points. And that meant that the cover didn't land. And then the Raiders went down and scored a field goal. I had Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard went over his line. And then he ran into a brick wall. He had one more carry for the rest of the game. There were others as well. But Tom, what on earth, betting gods? Please leave us alone.
Yeah, it was a tough week. I mean, I'm not going to try and single you out here. That's not what I'm meaning to do. But I got 4 out of 6, so I had a solid week. But I was still fuming about the Rams. Of course, you had not as many winners, but you had the worst beat of all time, I would say, with Tony Pollard. A quick note for anyone in the comments, by the way, watching this, and if you followed Luke in on your Pollard rushing yards bet last week, did you guys get paid out? Now, this is a long-term query that I've got, because obviously as an NFL player, and you have player props, it's a receiving line amount of yardage possible. The thing is, with running backs and wide receivers, you can go over and then go under again. So I think some firms pay out if you cross that margin, even if the player ends up below it. But let me know in the comments if you did follow Luke in and you got paid out or didn't get paid out.
I can confirm I did not get paid out.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case.
Also, one more player to add into the bad beats. Demario Douglas, great start. 2 catches on the opening drive. Feels a bit poorly. You know what? From the second quarter onwards, I'm just going to go and stand on the sidelines. I'll look like I'm ready to come back in the game, but I feel a bit under the weather. So Demario Douglas isn't going to go back in the game. That was good. That was good. Tom, what's your what on earth this week?
Yeah, my what on earth is going to be what on earth Denver Broncos O-line. Now, cast your minds way back to Thursday Night Football last week in Week 7. We're talking October the 17th, and it was an evening where the Denver Broncos played, and they eventually won that game really impressively. They won 33-6 against the New Orleans Saints, who were pretty poor, to be fair, with Spencer Rattler, but without most of their star players on offense. I put up Devon Vele. This guy caught a 20-yard pass on the first drive. I text you. I was like, this is looking good. 1 drive in. He's already 2/3 through the receiving yards we needed for my player prop. Hopefully this bet's going to land. Okay, it didn't land. He ended up with 1 catch for 20 yards. That's fine. It's a pretty rough beat. You go throughout the whole rest of the game without him grabbing another ball, and therefore you don't hit. Fine. If that was actually what happened, I would have moved on by now. What actually happened was he caught 2 more balls later in the game, 1 for 13 yards, 1 for 14 yards. Both would have put him over the over. and both would have made us basically win the bet and celebrate another winner on Thursday Night Football. The Denver Broncos O-line, there was an illegal shift, which obviously wasn't the O-line, but I've got to put it all together here. And the worst one was an offensive holding. Luke, I hate penalties of holding when a player goes and catches a ball and hits a player prop. It is so frustrating. So I'm going to say, what on earth, Denver Broncos O-line / the receiver that caused the illegal shift.
Yeah, basically a bad beat is what you're saying.
Yeah,
So,
another one.
So basically, betting gods, we're angry. Also, single me out all you want, but 6-1 for the player of the day. I'm just...
Mate, you are firing on that front, I have to admit. You are beating me on plays of the day. Hopefully we can both add a winner in this podcast, and we should get straight into it with the Week 8 picks right now.
We should, but I haven't actually got a drink, so I just picked this up off the floor, but...
I'm glad I don't have a drink either. I say that my player of the day didn't win, so
there you go. That's the victory sip. It's the worst victory sip for player of the day ever. Let's have a look. Oh, it's a ropey start. Let's have a look at Sunday. It's the happiest place in the world. We are going to go fairly heavy early on in the piece. Now, we've both slightly less from what we've had in last week anyway, but last week both had 6. I think you've got 4. I'm going to call it 3.5.
Yeah, okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah, I will start though, and I will start with a team who hit the headlines last week for reasons that I think they were hoping not to hit them for, because Deshaun Watson tore his Achilles. Now, that meant that DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, came into the game. And to be fair, he looked okay. Wasn't the guy that you kind of expected to come into the game, because Jameis Winston had been recently downgraded to the emergency quarterback, but Dorian Thompson-Robinson got hurt later on in the game. Jameis came in. Jameis looked good. Jameis is a very serviceable quarterback to anyone who bets and to anyone who plays fantasy football, because he will just sling it. And he is a great guy to have on our side. So let's look at the Cleveland Browns. And importantly, let's look at the Cleveland Browns without Amari Cooper, because the first game without Amari Cooper, David Njoku, who's going to be the focus in this point, he gained 14 targets and 10 catches. Obviously, he got the touchdown very late on in the day, but his line's 50.5. I think that is a very exploitable line. Currently at 10-11. Now, he's playing Baltimore. Baltimore, fearsome defense, aren't they? Years and years they've been brilliant. Not this year. They're allowing yards, rushing, well, less rushing, but mainly receiving. But they can't stop the ball just as much. 3 times out of the 7 games this year, Baltimore's leading opposition receiver has been a tight end. And again, you're thinking, well, they must have played some really big guys. Not massively. Jake Ferguson was one of them, who was a good tight end, but he's not CeeDee Lamb. 6 for 95. Zach Ertz for the Washington Commanders, 4 for 68. Cade Otton last week. I know Mike Evans got hurt. Chris Godwin did as well, but not too late in the game. Cade Otton was the focal point, and they had a real problem stopping him. 8 catches for 100 yards. And let's also count in as well players who weren't the leading receiver on their team. Against the Raiders, Brock Bowers totaled 9 for 98. He was beaten by Devontae Adams that week. Dalton Kincaid also had 5 for 47. They've got a real problem in stopping the tight end. But they also managed to concede yards, but they're really good at stopping them from scoring. They haven't conceded a touchdown to the tight end position this year. And Njoku last week, he was the first read 31.3% of the time. Both himself and Cedric Tillman had the same percentage. I love that. 50.5 receiving yards. I was going to put up touchdown as well because it's 3-1. I think that is towards the bigger price because I think they will be trying to force the ball to him. But with Baltimore's record against tight ends in the red zone, I'm happy ignoring that part. I'll take David Njoku over 50.5 for receiving yards. I don't think they'll win the game, Tom, but I think Njoku will be just fine.
Yeah, I think the Ravens will definitely win this matchup. I love the Ravens. I've been hot on them all year. Everyone knows this who watches the podcast already. 2 points that I want to make about that. Both are pro your case about the over here. Number one, you probably know this because you did reel off some stats about the Ravens v tight ends. But did you know they have given up the most catches to tight ends in the whole league so far. And they've been the worst team against tight ends in terms of fantasy. So even though they're not giving up many touchdowns, they're still the worst against that position. So that's a pro for you and just backs up your case. Secondly, the Ravens are likely to win, which means that the Cleveland Browns should throw the ball more, which means that David Njoku should get more targets and therefore more yards and more catches. So I can certainly see that point of view. We're going to start this podcast with 2 tight end player prop picks. That was hard to say. My start is going to be with Dalton Schultz. he plays for the Houston Texans. He goes up against the Indianapolis Colts. Before I tell you about the line and why I like it, here's a stat for you. The Colts this season have been the best team against the spread. If you're looking at handicaps, the Colts have been the best team against the spread. Somehow they're 6-1 this year, so maybe Colts +6 in this matchup would appeal to a punter out there if you like playing against the spread. But that's not where I'm going. I like the Houston Texans, and I couldn't really bet against them with the Colts. So I'm going with Dalton Schultz, over 30.5 receiving yards, 30.5. That's at 10-11 here. The Houston Texans, obviously without Nico Collins. He's still on IR, but he is progressing nicely. I saw a report earlier today on Thursday, or it's actually Friday for me now, but still Thursday for most. And he seems to be progressing and coming back to football soon. But they're without him for the time being. They've got Stephon Diggs, who... What happened against the Packers, by the way? I mean, he decided to start a fight pre-game and then did nothing in the game itself. I had him anytime touchdown. He didn't even show up. That was one of the worst bets of the season, no doubt. If he just had his head in the game, then maybe he would have continued his trend against the Packers, but it wasn't to be. I don't like Diggs anyway from his days at Minnesota, but I definitely don't like him now after that bad beat. They've got Tank Dell, who's a very good player. They've got Joe Mixon, who they're relying upon lately. He's doing all of the heavy lifting for them. Step forward Dalton Schultz. He has 32 targets on the year. He averages just under 5 targets per game, and he's averaging around 25 yards per game. They're not big numbers, but he's been that kind of stalwart player that moves the chains for them, picks up first downs. The Colts are the 4th worst team against tight ends this season. They allow 6 catches on average and 54 yards per game on average to the tight end position. I think Dalton Schultz is going to have more luck this week. I think after what we saw with Stephon Diggs last week, they're going to go to Dalton more. The Colts are going to try and stop Joe Mixon. There's no doubt about that. So I like Schultz. I think he's going to cover. So I'll take Dalton Schultz over 30.5 receiving yards against the Indianapolis Colts.
One positive I think about that as well is that Tank Dell last week went completely missing. Obviously, we landed a Tank Dell bet 2 weeks ago when he just about went over against the Patriots. But he had 4 targets last week, no catches. To have Tank Dell not featured in a part of an offense like that, that's a big thing. I think Dalton Schultz can and will need to step up to help this offense out. I'm going to look at an offense who are playing the Patriots this week, a team that we just mentioned. But the Patriots suck. Not in general, but against the run, they really suck. They are real bad. Every single week, Tom, this season, the Patriots have allowed at least 1 rushing touchdown to the running back or 1 week fullback position. They have been dreadful. That includes Breece Hall, who is the running back for the New York Jets, and he's going to be the focal point for my 1.5 selection. Definitely the one, though. But Breece Hall, anytime touchdown is 8-11. And I'm also going to put in a caveat as well that I'm going to put a same game multiple, same game parlay in there on a double with over 73.5 rushing yards. So Breece Hall, anytime touchdowns 8-11, double that up. That makes it 19-10. I like that. I like it when you're banking on a player to do quite a bit. He's 3-1 to score 2 or more touchdowns. I don't mind that either. But as I say, the Patriots are not good against the run. They've allowed a 100-yard rusher 3 of the last 4 weeks as well. Jordan Mason, Joe Mixon, and obviously last week, Tank Bigsby. You're thinking, oh, well, maybe they stopped the run that 1 week. No, that was their worst week against running backs. They allowed 188 yards rushing against the Dolphins. Not even Devon Achane. Devon Achane had a quiet week. It was Jalen Wright, I should say, and Raheem Mostert. They both had 80-plus yards. Breece Hall in New York has reclaimed this backfield. The last time these 2 teams played, Braylon Allen was trying to take over. New coaching staff have kind of come in. They've been rejigged anyway. Obviously, Salah has departed, but they have gone right back towards Breece Hall. The last couple of weeks, he's had 24 touches and 21 touches. Not all on the ground, must be said. He has been involved in the receiving game. It was a blowout last week. Obviously, he still managed to get involved. 12 carries, I think, on the ground, and then the rest through the air. Braylon Allen, last couple of weeks, he's had 5 rushes. I think he's being not phased out per se. They're just putting it all back on Breece Hall. I know Breece Hall has not been a friend of the podcast this season, Tom, but I think Breece Hall is going to absolutely crush this week against the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that that little line there. He's not been a friend of the podcast. Do you know we're 0 from 3 when actually picking Breece Hall on the podcast. We are 2 from 2 with our unofficial selections in a comment from one watcher or viewer, whether it was about a Monday night game or something like that. But they didn't really count. So we're 0 from 3. You're trying to buck that trend here.
I am. I'm being brave. By the way, if you do have any questions about players that we haven't mentioned on the podcast, leave them in the comments below. We will get back to you pretty much as quickly as we can. I think on average, our response rate is about 2-3 minutes. So that's pretty damn good.
Whoa. Our response rate. Your response rate. You are the guy in the comments. So a little round of applause there.
Thanks. Appreciate that, guys. Honestly, Mickey, Minnie, Donald, love it. Thank you very much. Tom, give me your second selection on the podcast. You wouldn't be a homer, would you?
No.
That was Homer.
No. Before I talk about this selection, firstly, I'll say this because I say it every single podcast. If you do want to listen to the analysis, keep listening, please. There is a roundup at the end with our selections. Luke just gave a little bit of a complex play there, a single, which was also included in a double with another pick. So if you do want clarification on exactly what we're betting, it'll be right at the end in the final 2 minutes. So make sure you check that out. This is my last play in the 6 PMs. It's my second selection of the podcast. I hate this pick. I really do. I love it from a betting perspective, but I hate it as a personal perspective because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves with these picks. We message each other throughout the whole of Red Zone and Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football when we have plays, and Thursday Night Football, of course, with the pressure of trying to get these winners. We need to get the winners. Now, I'm going to put up the Packers -3.5 at 10-11 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm a big Packers fan. I hate betting my own team. I've actually done it once this year in the NFL so far, and it wasn't the Packers outright. It was Josh Jacobs over rushing yards, and he just failed to hit that number, and it really ruined the game for me. We won the matchup, but it really ruined the game. I was a little bit disappointed and sad, actually, by the end of it. So I kind of made a pact to myself not to put up the Packers or any kind of Packers prop for the rest of the year. But why are the Packers -3.5 in this matchup? They should be -6.5 at least against the Jags. What am I not seeing, Luke? I try not to be biased, but I don't think I am being biased in this occasion. I just think the line is wrong. Look, the Packers have been excellent so far this year. They've won 5 of their last 6 matchups. They've been scintillating in those victories. There was a field goal in the final second to win last week, but against a very good team in the Houston Texans. And the only actual defeat in the last 6 games has come against the Minnesota Vikings, where they went down big early and they came back fighting and almost beat them in the latter stages of the fourth quarter. They played as well as the Vikings, if not better. They just didn't start as hot. They are an informed team right now. We've got Jordan Love who's playing lights out. Josh Jacobs is playing well, moving the ball. Emmanuel Wilson is complimenting him nicely. The wide receivers are playing well, apart from Christian Watson, who's killed my fantasy teams, but that's by the by. The defense is very, very good right now. I don't see the negative. On the flip side, the Jacksonville Jaguars have looked terrible all season. They were even average last week in London when they played. They're jet-lagged now. I understand they're playing in Florida and at home, but Jacksonville is rarely a sellout, to be honest, and there'll probably be as many Packers fans as there are Jaguars fans in that stadium. So, yes, okay, the Packers do have to travel down, and the climate's going to be different from what we're used to at Lambeau. But I just think they're miles better than the Jaguars. I'm taking the Packers -3.5. I think that line is just wrong. If they don't cover, I'm going to be a very sad man.
Would you like to know something that will make you even more sad right now?
Go on.
As it stands right now, I think I'm about an hour and a half from Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. I'm just going to be prowling for Jacksonville fans.
Don't do that.
My friend Tom hates you guys.
You're rubbish. Sorry, Jacksonville fans. I know there probably are a few of you watching. I do feel for you. But right now, you are rubbish.
In fairness, if you're a Jacksonville fan, you're hearing your team's rubbish, just sit there and go, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, we've had this for years. Yeah, fair enough. That is Tom's second play this week. I'm going heavy in the early games. I'm going to put my feet up and I'm going to enjoy, which is a rarity.
Mate, what is going on here? The running order specifically says you've got to have selections in the latter games. You're literally just going for the early matchups, and then you're going off and heading off to Disney to do something, aren't you?
No, I'm probably going to be there literally while the games are on.
Right, okay, that makes it even worse.
Yeah, that's even worse. But Thursday Night Football, which is tonight, that kicks off in about 3 hours, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine. It's like 8 o'clock over here. That is perfect for me.
don't mind.
But I I am looking. This is the longest shot that I'm going to put up this week. But I'm looking at Rashad White, who, I mean, the Buccaneers offense is going to look different this week. Mike Evans is most likely going to be out. He generally would play through pain, but I think he's going to be out this week. Chris Godwin, he's going to be out for multiple weeks. He dislocated his ankle on literally the last play of the game against Baltimore the other night. I don't know why he was in the game, but he got hurt. He's going to miss a little bit of time. So that's their main two pass catchers that are out. Obviously, Cade Otton managed to do very well last week, as we mentioned, against Baltimore. But they're going to need someone to come in, and they're going to need someone to come in the passing game. Sean Tucker, don't think is that guy. Bucky Irving can catch passes, but they're not Rashad White. Last year, I don't think Rashad White dropped a pass. I think that's how prolific he was in the passing game. Quite honestly, I don't really care that much if he runs the ball. It's whatever. But if they can get 7 or 8 targets to Rashad White, I think he's going to be fine. And I like him to find the end zone here. He's currently 6-4. As I say, Godwin and Evans are both out. He managed 6 receptions last week in the defeat to Seattle. I think that's a rather positive thing. Obviously, Seattle were in front for the majority of the game because why not Seattle? And they had against Atlanta, obviously who they play this week, earlier on in the year, he was 10 for 72 against Atlanta. That was with a negative game script. That was on the ground as well. Tampa are going to have to really change things up in how they do things this week. And I think that is returning to Rashad White. Baker Mayfield was looking for him the almost entirety of the time last week. I think Rashad White is going to have a good week. He's currently 6-4 for anytime touchdown. That will be my final play of the week, Tom. I think Rashad White will find the end zone.
Yeah, best of luck. I'm not a Rashad White fan, I have to admit, so I wouldn't be looking at player props for him, but you're going for anytime touchdown, so all he needs is basically one good play to find the end zone. So fingers crossed for you. He's a nice price as well, and it's always good when we get... I mean, I'm going to call it a long shot. It's obviously not a huge price, but it's odds against, which you don't often get in the NFL, especially when you're looking at player props. So fingers crossed, and hopefully you can have a very successful early kickoff window there with 4 selections, basically, or 3.5 if you like. I've got 2 more to give you. I'm going to give you the first one, then you can talk about who the matchup is for Monday Night Football, and I'll fire in my selections there. My next play is in the 8:30 p.m. game slate. By the way, anyone listening, clocks go back in the UK. 5 p.m. first games, 8:30 p.m. second game, and Sunday Night Football is just past midnight. So don't turn up an hour late. One of my mates always does it. It's really frustrating. So my next play, my third play of this podcast, is Rome Odunze. Now, where's this guy gone? You look at Malik Neighbors. He looked fantastic prior to his concussion. Hopefully he's A-OK and returns to the form he was in. Marvin Harrison, blown hot and cold so far this year, but when he's hot, he was really hot. I think he had one game with 130 yards and 2 TDs. They were the first 2 wide receivers taken in the draft. Rome Odunze, a little bit quiet. Now, I suppose that's kind of expected, but he's also got a rookie QB that's throwing to him in Caleb Williams, albeit a very good one. And the Chicago offense just hasn't really fired so far. He's also competing for targets with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, amongst others. So it's kind of expected he wasn't going to blow up instantly like Malik Neighbors was, but he's still been quiet nevertheless. The Bears play the Commanders this week. The Commanders could be with Jaden Daniels. They could be without Jaden Daniels. Marcus Mariota is the backup. Nevertheless, I still think the Chicago Bears will probably win this game. I believe it's basically a pick 'em right now in the matchup between the two. But I would prefer Chicago. If Chicago are going to win, they need Rome Odunze. I just think this is going to be the perfect breakout game for him. Second week off the bye, he just seems like a player that's going to explode in the latter part of the season. Keenan Allen obviously is getting older now. He's not going to be with the Bears for long. DJ Moore's a very good receiver, but he can't do all the heavy lifting for Caleb Williams, whose O-line is just not very good right now. Odunze, if you look at his stats at the moment, they're not very strong. They don't exactly indicate he is about to break out. Like last game, he only had 2 catches. Nevertheless, the line is just so low. It's 32.5 receiving yards. This guy is very good on intermediate routes, deep routes. He could catch one ball and clear that player prop. So I'm going to take Rome Odunze over 32.5 receiving yards against the Commanders for the Chicago Bears. I think the line should be about 40, and that's obviously way above what it currently is. So that is my third selection.
Yeah, I think Rome Odunze in fantasy football, I think he could be a trade for candidate, and I don't think you have to spend too much to get him for the rest of the year. The rest of his game is obviously Washington coming up, who are terrible against the pass. You got Arizona, New England after that. Minnesota haven't been great against the pass this year as well. Detroit twice. He's got Seattle as well, and obviously Minnesota is playing twice. I think Rome Odunze could have a big end to the year, and I also like targeting rookies after they've managed to hit the bye. So I don't mind Rome Odunze for this week. I just wish Keenan Allen would leave town because he is eating up too many targets for my liking. Final selection of the week. That is also going to be over to Tom. That comes a little bit later on. Jordan Mason is taking on the Dallas Cowboys. I say Jordan Mason is. It's almost him on his own because San Francisco just keep on getting hurt. Brandon Ayuk is out for the season. George Kittle is always questionable. It looks as if Deebo Samuel might miss the game. He's got pneumonia and had to leave the game through illness last week. So it's not far off, Tom. Jordan Mason standing there on his own.
Precisely my angle. I like Jordan Mason anytime touchdown in Sunday Night Football. Or is it Monday Night Football? No, it's Sunday Night Football. Between the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers. If you scheduled this game 2 weeks ago, this would be one of the best primetime games all season long. But now the Cowboys look even worse than they did prior to the Detroit defeat. And the 49ers, as you say, have half an offense. So it's not going to be the best of watches, I don't imagine. I wouldn't bet on who's going to win this game either, although San Fran should if they play anything like their best. As you say, the wide receiver room right now for San Fran is completely wrecked. Brandon Ayuk done. Deebo Samuel, he was initially described as out with a 1 to 3 week term. Now he's back to questionable with this pneumonia-like illness. So hopefully he is okay. And if he does play, then that's obviously great news for San Fran, but it does seem unlikely. It looks like they're going to lean on Juwan Jennings, who's also questionable right now, George Kittle, who is also questionable right now, and Ricky Pearsall from a receiving angle. Now, to be honest, I wanted to look at Ricky Pearsall. I wanted to find his overs, and I was going to go Odunze and Pearsall, two rookies to end, rookie wide receivers over receiving yards. But there is nothing for Pearsall from any firm right now. It looks like they are waiting for the news on Deebo Samuel, which is no help for our podcast. So I've sided with Jordan Mason instead. If San Fran are going to put up any points, surely it's through him. This guy's been electric so far this season. He's been hurt as well, to be fair. He's been questionable for the last 2 weeks. But Dallas are just terrible against the run, and Jordan Mason is a guy that you can just lean upon no matter what the offense or opposing defense is. Dallas are giving up 143 rushing yards per game, 6th worst in the NFL for one of the better teams, or at least supposed better teams. That includes 184 yards to the Detroit Lions, 274 yards to the Baltimore Ravens earlier in the year. Both of those games ended in defeat. Jordan Mason is just 4 to 5 to score in this game. I don't really understand why he's such a big price. Check back a week ago, Kyren Williams was 8 to 15 to score a touchdown against the Raiders. Now, I know that Kyren Williams had been finding the end zone consistently, but that matchup was the reason why he was so short. The Raiders were terrible against the run, and the Rams were likely to put points on the board. I don't really see much of a difference here, apart from the fact that Jordan Mason is going to get more carries, or at least the same amount of carries as Kyren Wilson, yet he's a bigger price. So I'm going to take Jordan Mason anytime touchdown. Hopefully we're celebrating the final winner of potentially 8 winners on Sunday.
2 things. Firstly,
Go.
I've never heard someone call Kyren Williams Kyren Wilson more than you.
Mate, what am I doing? The snooker player Kyren Wilson is in my head. Sorry, guys. Yeah, Kyren Williams. I say it every single podcast as well.
You did say Williams to start with, and then right at the end you just threw one more mention in. It was like he changed his name to Kyren Wilson. But
all right, can we make a pact? If I say Wilson at some point later in the season for another pick or something like that, I need to do a forfeit because this is ridiculous now.
All right, all your money comes to Luke. That is the forfeit.
Okay, that's just way too far.
I've gone in too deep. And the second part is, just before we left Disney, and I'm no doctor, but before we came out to Florida, my partner was suffering with pneumonia. She could in no way play in an NFL game in that condition.
I don't think she could have played an NFL game before that, to be honest.
You don't... Honestly, she's knocked me over more times than I care to admit. But there is a joke that I say that she runs at me like a linebacker. And yeah. I'm just saying, there is a strong person behind that. However... Deebo was spotted, I'm just reading now, was spotted at Thursday's practice. So that's a positive. But my God, there's being there and then there's playing in the NFL against the Dallas Cowboys who, I mean, they might get a few guys back. But, I mean, you can take this week off, Debo. It's fine
Yeah.
on that part. But that is the final selection of the Turf and Touchdowns podcast for Sunday. We'll just recap our selections. We'll do play of the day at the end as well. So, Joe, our editor, if you could please get all of these right this week, that would be great.
Yeah.
We had so many comments last week saying...
Lamar Jackson wasn't on the board. He was a winner as well.
Yeah, Tom doesn't get that winner now. That's all because of you, Joe.
We couldn't even clip it. We couldn't even clip it, Joe. Come on, man.
The thing is, I know he's going to see this bit as well because he clips through to whatever time you say, right, put the edit in there. So, Joe, come on, man. Breece Hall, anytime touchdown is 8-11. And I'm going to really confuse Joe. I'm going to double that up. So not a double selection with the over 73.5 rushing yards. That double is at 19-10. So Breece Hall, anytime touchdown is a single. The double, though, is set to add over 73.5 rushing yards on it. That's 19-10. I'm going to look in the Buccaneers game as well against the Falcons. Rashad White, anytime touchdown. That's at 6-4. And my play of the day to try and make it 7-1 is going to be David Njoku over 50.5 receiving yards at 10-11. That's David Njoku over 50.5 receiving yards at 10-11. And that is the play of the day. Tom Collins.
Yes, 4 selections for me. Also, Dalton Schultz over 30.5 receiving yards at 10-11. That's for the Houston Texans against the Indianapolis Colts. That's selection 1. Selection 2, Rome Odunze over 32.5 receiving yards at 10-11 for the Chicago Bears against the Washington Commanders. That line may change, but hopefully it sticks to 32.5. Selection 3, Jordan Mason, anytime touchdown for the 49ers against Dallas Cowboys in Sunday Night Football at 4-5. And then selection 4, Packers minus 3.5 against the terrible Jacksonville Jaguars, fingers crossed, at 10-11. That is my play of the day. Come on, Green Bay. I love you. I don't love you from a betting perspective. Please prove me right here.
What are you doing to yourself? What are you doing?
Pain.
The play of the day goes to Green Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. You're just going to be sad if they don't win. Or if they don't cover.
Mate, you know what my what on earth is going to be next week?
Yeah. It's like, how did Brandon McManus miss that field goal? Right, that's the prediction. That's the prediction for next week. But that is us done on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast for yet another week. Week 8 in the books. We've got our Thursday Night Football preview up now. You can go and check how we did on that. We've also got a preview of the Brian Station Stakes in our horse racing preview. And stay tuned. We have got so much stuff coming at you for the Breeders' Cup next week that will all be recorded next week and out to you as soon as possible, along with our usual NFL stuff. Tom, I'm going to go out to Chuck E. Cheese and play that baseball game that I showed you.
Yeah, you love that stuff. I am going to go to bed. I'm very tired, mate. Hopefully I can catch a bit of the Vikings game. We do really like a selection there, so fingers crossed we have the winner. Obviously, you'll be watching that after the matchup's finished. Also, I'm going to do your job here. Like this video, please. Subscribe, please. We're on that road to 300, 350. And as Luke and I have both already said, if you do like any plays on Sunday or just want to discuss one of our plays or previous weeks, whatever you want to talk about, whack them in the comments. Luke loves the comment section. The guy's addicted to it. He will reply to you within seconds. So please do it. And we love the interaction with you guys.
Yeah, Tom only does certain parts of my job. I still have to do the YouTube comment side of things. But do you want to do the outro? Or?
No, I absolutely don't. I'm the guy that has to go to Joe now and explain that blooming double you're putting up.
Yeah. When I said that, I really messed it up as well. So I had to go back and do it all over again. Not a sense that we cut it. It was the case that I'll just go and re-explain that because I really butchered that. So that part's on me, Joe. But thank you very much, guys, for watching. We'll be back next week. Tom's going to go to sleep. I'm going to go. I wish I was going to sleep. I'm going to go out and do some stuff now that's more family orientated. Until next week, stay safe. Look after one another. Goodbye.